Good evening. My name is Galen, and today we're going to take a look at Matthew chapter 7. Now, Matthew chapter 7 is the last of the Beatitudes, and it kind of goes right along with Matthew chapter 6. But Matthew chapter 6, Jesus was basically telling us how we should try to puff ourselves up and how we should act in regards to ourselves, and try not to be something that we're really not, try to be, make ourselves look good and using religion in order to do that. But Matthew chapter 7 is a little more founded in how we should treat our fellow man. And he goes right into how not to judge and then be judged, And basically what that means is you don't want to go and tear somebody down or downgrade them or look bad on them and be judgmental towards them when you're doing the same thing yourself. And it's real easy to try to fall into that gap a little bit because you're kind of, pointing to somebody else and not yourself in regards to your weakness. But we need to really think about that. So I really like Matthew chapter 7 because it's about how to perfect yourself a little bit better so that you can help other people in their perfection. And it starts off with, don't be negative towards them, but be positive towards them. And then it goes on to talking about, a straight and narrow path, how we need to follow that path to God. And I've heard people say, well, there's many ways to get to heaven, but the only way to get to heaven is through Christ. And the Bible says that. And it is what it is. And that is the narrow way. Christ is the narrow way. And so we really need to take that, and we need to eat that because it is the truth. Jesus is the way. And along that path, we need to make sure that we are trying to live the life the best we can so we can set examples to other people and try to help them. It would not be good for me to go and try to help somebody in regards to something that I don't know how to do it myself. That would be kind of stupid. I think that's why in life we struggle a little bit here and there, and we have to go through trials and issues like that in our lives where you fight to figure it out and get through it. It's so that we can help other people when they're going through those same kind of things later on, because we'll learn from our mistakes and we'll learn from the process, and then we'll be able to help them. So I think the best thing to do is try to, the Bible talks about don't pull the thorn out of somebody else's eye when you got a log in your own. And that's part of this chapter. And it basically states that fix yourself before you try to fix somebody else. And then you'll be able to have the ability to help fix somebody else. But at the same time, when you are to the point where you can help other people, don't be judgmental to them. You've gone through that yourself. Remember what you went through and try to help them through that. Then it goes on and talks about false prophets and witnesses and stuff. And basically, I think we can always use the example of the guy who's using religion to get a lot of money. There's some of those out there. We've seen them. And there are people that are out there that are seeking God, and they are making a lot of money, and they are good people. So I'm not trying to downgrade like all television evangelists, because there's good television evangelists out there. But at the same time, there are some people out there that are using it just to make money. And you got to be careful of that. You really got to look at that really, really closely. Usually when somebody is doing that, when they're using it for their own way, the things that they say do not quite match the scriptures, So they'll say something that's way out, and it tickles your ear, and then people like that, and then they'll send you money because you're saying something they really like. They want to support that because it's an easier way, and so we got to remember that as we're going along. The other thing is, don't let that discourage you if you're starting to do something for God and you're not seeing a big productivity on it. The productivity is not very high. You still need to move forward. It's like anything. You got to put your sweat, your blood in. And then, of course, we need to make sure as we're living our life and we're doing these things that we're doing them with a strong and a real powerful foundation. I think that's based on Christ. It's based on living our lives and aiming for Him. And it's worshiping God. We need to worship God. We need to worship Christ. We need to serve God. We need to serve Christ. And then God, the last thing is God does talk about, He tells us that He will give us the needs that we need, the things that we need and that we ask for. And it's okay to ask God for something that you might not quite need, but you really want. He's going to give you good things. But if it's going to cause harm to you or anybody else, or it's not of His will, it's not a good thing, you're probably not going to get it. And He knows that. He knows the difference. But it doesn't mean that we don't ask God for good things, and it doesn't mean that He's not going to give them to us. God owns it all. He created heaven and earth just by His word. And so that's basically what I got out of Matthew chapter 7. One of the things I want to say is on the very last part of the chapter, Jesus stated who He was talking to, and He was talking to the disciples, but He stated He was talking to the crowds as well. And in Matthew chapter 5, I think I was focusing on, He was talking to the disciples, and I want to make that correction. Well, there you go. I made it. I went through Matthew chapter 5 through 7. I did the Beatitudes. I feel good about that. I really do. I made it through that. So now we're looking forward to doing Matthew chapter 8, and I hope you join us. See you then.